And welcome to Programming 2. I hope you're as excited as I am to embark on this course. But before we actually get into our programming topics for Programming 2, let's just do a quick recap of some of the topics that we talked about in Programming 1. Obviously, we're not going to go nearly as in depth as we did during the full course because it's just a quick review unit to kind of bring us back up to speed in case we forgot anything. So let's just first start off by talking about primitive types. So a quick review with variables. Recall that Java will use variables in order to represent an unknown value. We usually declare and initialize a variable to a value, although this is not always the case. So for example, it would be something like int x equals 2 would be an example of a variable review. All right, let's just quickly take a quick detour from the notes and discuss how this would look. So I have Eclipse ready to go here. Now, one of the things I did, because I know my original workspace from Programming 1 is getting quite full, I went and created a new folder in my N drive here called Workspace 2. You can, of course, just, that's an easy way just to name it there. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK, and you can see now it's pointing to Workspace 2. All right. If you ever want to get back to your Workspace 1, the original one, you can see it shows right here up under Recent Workspaces. So I'm going to go ahead and let Eclipse load. And while that's loading in the background, let's discuss the next point here. Now, a variable should be named something relevant to your program, such as pressure value. And we'll follow camel casing. Camel casing, remember, means that it's typically what you'll see is like the first letter of the word, the first word, excuse me, is lowercase, and then each successive word after that is started with a capital letter. Now, of course, the most common types of variables you will encounter are int, double, char, and bool. You might occasionally see something like a long, because you might be working with really large numbers. But most often, these are the common types that you'll see. You may see float too occasionally, but these are the most common ones. Okay. Let's pop over to Eclipse, see how it's coming. Looks like she's still loading here. So there it goes. Go ahead and full screen this thing. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new Java project. And I'm just going to call this review demo. And let's go ahead and make ourselves a, oops. I bumped something here. There we go. New class. We'll call it review demo. Let's go ahead and add the main method for this. Okay. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete out the pre-generated stuff there. And if you recall, let's just make some int type variables. So I'm going to make int, let's call it num1. And I'm going to set that equal to, let's say, 3. And num2, set that equal to 2. And I'm going to have the third one, num3, that does not have an initial value. All right, and let's just make a double just so we have one for reference. So let's just say double answer. Okay. Now you can see one of the things to remember is that we typically, if it's the same type, we'll put it all in the same line. If also, you notice that I could have technically come down here and have, let's say, int num4, and that would be perfectly valid. However, because it's the same type, I like to keep things clean, and so I would actually most likely put num4 right here. Okay. So there's our quick example with some variables. All right, precedence. Recall that variables typically follow your orders of operation, so that parentheses have the highest precedence. This would mean that the expression x plus x times 2 times parentheses 3 minus x, parentheses plus 7, the value of 3 minus x would be evaluated first because it is in the innermost parenthesis. Now, there are other precedence rules for things such as and or, if you recall, when we start talking about things like branching statements, but we'll review those later. All right, let me just quickly throw in a quick output statement here to show orders of operations. And let's go ahead and do num1 plus num2 times, let's do 3 times parentheses num1 plus 7. I'm just throwing some random numbers in here. And save it. And if you're called to run a Java program, all I do is I come over here and hit the run button. And once Java finishes compiling, you'll see the console give me the answer, which is right here, 63. All right. Next thing it talked about though is type conversion. So recall that Java will automatically convert in types doubles in certain situations. So for example, if you wanted to just do an input, for example, and had a person is like, please enter the next number, and you're doing a next double, and the person just types 4, well, Java will recognize that even though it's 4, it really means 4.0, because remember, you have to have a decimal for doubles. However, Java does not like to convert the other way. It does not like to take doubles convert in. So if you even hit 4.0, even though it's the same thing as 4, Java says, no, I can't convert down. So it can always go into double, but never double int. So if we want to typecast coercive type, we can add the type we want in before the value. Right? So in this example here, I have num1 equals 1, num2 equals 2, double answer equals double num1 divided by num2. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that in here quick. So the double answer. We already actually have answer declared, so I can just write answer equals, and I'm just going to do num1 divided by num2. And if I outputted answer, as it is right now, if I go ahead and run that, you see I get the value 1.0. Because if we do 3 divided by 2, technically that would be 1.5. However, I don't want 1.5, so I have to typecast. So I'm going to put double in front of that in parentheses, and I get 1.5. So that's how we do coercion. Next, let's review some strings. Recall that in Java, strings are not a primitive type, but rather are objects of a class, particularly usually something like string. We create the string objects similarly to variables that we declare and initialize them in most scenarios. Occasionally, you will leave the string null, but most often or not, you're kind of giving it a value. Now, string values must be contained within your double quotes in order to be contained, or for Java to recognize their value. You can't use a single quote. A single quote will throw an error. You use single quotes for chars, so use double quotes for strings. Now, before I move on to that, let me just quickly throw up here a string type. So I'm going to say string name equals quote me. Right. And the reason why I did that is because remember, strings are not just limited to letters. They're also can contain pretty much any character off of your keyboard. So you can put numbers, you can put special characters, like here I have an exclamation point. Pretty easy. Now, of course, I can also have multiple names, so I can have like second name equals you. So, concatenation. If we want to join a string value with a variable's variable, we concatenate the two with the plus operator. So, for example, this is now a print line outputting value number 1 equals plus num1. Now, remember, if you try to concatenate two variables of a number type, it's going to instead do the arithmetic operation. Right. Now, let me just go ahead and do that here. So, I'm going to go ahead and add system.out.println. And let's go ahead and do that up. Now, of course, you can put like something like quote the output of num1 plus num2 is, and then you can say num1 plus num2. If you do it this way, okay, I'll just run that one quick to show you. We get 32 because here Java is concatenating everything here. So if I wanted to add these two, I'd have to do it separately because remember, once you throw a string in there, pretty much Java treats the whole thing as a string. You can also, of course, output directly a string. So let's say I want to do a print line of name. I can output just name. Let's see, or I can output name plus, and then I can put second name. Now, if I do that, they're going to be conjoined together with 1. So if I want to put a space between something, remember I can also concatenate in here a space pretty much. Just remember to put the quotes around it. Right, so let's just run that. And so then we get alpha num1 plus num2 is 32 because remember it's not a correct addition. And we got me and you. Okay. So now one of our last things to talk about, of course, is string methods. Because string is a class, we can use methods to obtain or modify the value of a string object. The most common ones, of course, are things like length, trim, char at, equals, ignore case, to upper, to lower. Now remember, if you want to modify the original string, you're going to need to set the method call equal to that of the original string. Merely calling the method or outputting it will not modify the string. Right? So let me just quickly go here. So we have me right now, which is in all uppercase. And let's say I want to convert you to all uppercase. So if I just say second name dot to, and I want to say, let's say uppercase, I can technically put this here, and Java will say it's fine. So if I just then do a system.out.println of second name, and then if I run it, you can see it doesn't change, and it's because I didn't store the value of second name. So second name equals second name dot to uppercase. Go ahead and save. You can see now it's in all uppercase. All right, and that is going to wrap up our review for today, folks. Hopefully this kind of brings back some memories, jogs your brain a little bit, if you haven't been keeping up with the summer projects. Other than that, folks, we will see you next time when we get into input and output.